Welcome to Fun and Fundraising, everybody, the podcast where we talk with people behind top nonprofit galas and signature fundraising events to showcase how they positively transform their communities. I'm your host, Rob Giardinelli, and today I am really honored and excited to be here with Emelda Douglas. And Emelda Douglas is all things community with the Houston Astros, and that includes being the Senior VP of Community Affairs for the Houston Astros, as well as the Executive Director for the Houston Astros Foundation. And every fall, the Astros Foundation hosts a wonderful gala, and this year's their 10th anniversary, the Diamond Dreams Gala. And it's one of Texas's really most fun events. You know, you get to have it on the football field, and we're going to talk about all kinds of fun things, including how the Astros and the foundation positively impact the Houston community at large. And one of the reasons I like having organizations such as the Astros Foundation is to showcase how tandem organizations work together and also give another spin to something that everyone knows who the Houston Astros are and some other things that they're doing to impact the community at large. And with that, Emelda, welcome. I'm so thrilled to have you here today. I'm really excited for our chat today.
Oh, absolutely. The honor is all mine. Thank you so much for making this space for us to come and have a conversation about something that we're extremely proud of, and that's our Diamond Dreams Gala.
Oh, well, we're thrilled to have you. So before we dive into all that stuff, let's talk a little bit about the organization. So share
Sure.
with us what the mission of the Houston Astros Foundation is.
So, at the Astros Foundation, we seek to harness the passion of our fans to support youth sports and education programs. We do a lot to honor and recognize our nation's military and first responders. We work with organizations around childhood cancer and domestic violence. And of course, we have significant efforts around reducing homelessness in our area. So we are super proud of a couple of our cornerstone initiatives that include our Community Leaders Program, the Astros MLB Youth Academy, and the Astros Nike RBI program, and that is reviving baseball in inner cities. And so I know that was a mouthful, but it takes a lot to sum up everything that we do in community, and we're super excited about it all.
Well, that's fantastic. And I do have a couple of questions about some of those programs, but before that, I'm always fascinated by how people get involved with the organizations they're with. So talk about your path of how you got to the Houston Astros Foundation and, just your background that got you here and how you take all of your previous experiences to really galvanize the Houston community at large.
Absolutely. So let me just say that I've been with the Astros organization approximately 4 months. So I am a newbie. I came in just as this season started. And so it's literally like jumping in on the deep end of the pool. But I absolutely love the work, love the mission, love the people. I've always been an Astros fan. So it is absolutely amazing and absolutely unplanned that I am in this chair today. And it's been amazing so far. I love what we do every day to help our great city become a better place to live and work and play. And for the last 25 years, that's been the essence of my work. I've worked in philanthropic organizations and nonprofit organizations. And so this work is very familiar with to me.
That's absolutely fantastic. And the fact that you've devoted your whole career to that really takes a special person to do. And I admire anyone who really makes that their work and their passion. And, you had talked a little bit about in one of your previous answers about several of the programs. I'd love for you to share a little bit more about the Community Leaders Program because it really does impact Houston pretty broadly. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit more details about that for our listeners, I think that'd be amazing.
Absolutely. Well, all credit for that program goes to our owner and chairman, Jim Crane. Back in 2013, after he started the team, he really wanted to do something large in the city of Houston to impact the next generation of young athletes with the environment and the resources that they needed to develop physically and mentally. So baseball and softball teaches young players the importance of teamwork and perseverance and commitment, and the principles that not only will serve them on the baseball field, but throughout their lives. And so we have 13 very wonderful, generous corporate partners who are in this with us for the long term. And so on the other side of the house, they have assets where they market, inside the stadium, but a significant part of those relationships is them helping us in community. We have 8 parks, community leader parks around the greater Houston area where we provide coaching clinics and the infrastructure, including maintaining the fields and uniforms and equipment for all the kids there. And we have another 25 fields where we maybe don't do all of the maintenance, but that we provide all the uniforms for young people. And so, so we believe very strongly that what matters is not just what happens inside of Daikin Park, but what happens in the greater Houston community. And so through our wonderful community leader partners, we try to make that happen.
Well, I think it's awesome. And I think it's, one thing that you touched upon, this kind of will lead into the next question about how you partner with 13, I believe you said it was 13 different,
Yeah.
corporate partners. And what's interesting, I know we touched upon this in the green room a little bit about how the foundation with the Astros is kind of what I like to call a tandem organization, that you've got the foundation, even though it's kind of one silo, you're a subset within the main big silo of the Houston Astros. So how do how have you found, in your recent time with the organization, how the foundation can successfully work with corporate donors so that they're giving to multiple parts of the organization, so that they see on a corporate level, they see the 50,000 people, that come to Daikin Park, but at the same time, they also see, oh wow, there are 20 different fields where, the Houston Astros Foundation allows young people to go and play and learn those values like teamwork.
Absolutely. Well, all of our community partners, let's just start there. We share the same values. And I think that that is important, right? Before we engage, because we're not engaging for one season or one year. This is a longer term commitment. And so we align around those things. Obviously, they're business people and they want to make sure they get what they need to get for their brand, engagement for their consumers. But really, it's the community activation piece that really gets them excited and really helps us seal the deal with them. They want to be engaged in the community. They feel like our brands together makes for a more impactful interaction. I mean, they could go over to one of our inner city middle schools and have a conversation and do a STEM training or whatever, literacy, when we do all of those things. But when we show up along with them, particularly when we bring Orbit along, the kids go wild, they have fun. But so we try to make learning fun for them. So we can teach them all kinds of things that will help them be better engaged by just having our brands come to the community together. And so that's what we've done over and over again. And it's a win-win for all of us.
It's a win-win, and everything's a win whenever Orbit's involved. Let's just start there with your wonderful mascot, Orbit, who everyone loves. And he's just, a mascot really brightens a room, but Orbit's like the best of the best.
Yeah, he is. He is.
Absolutely. So,
No, that's the toughest job in the organization. I swear. I sit there in the stadium and watch him, and I think, "Oh my goodness, I could never do all of that." But it's a crowd pleaser.
it's a crowd pleaser. It takes someone with a lot of energy to run around and keep the energy up for that many people at a space. So, you had talked about, the corporate partnership piece. And I think the other piece, because you do have your feet in both parts of the organization, both with the foundation and the Astros. So what's the secret to making sure that to ensure that the foundation is aligned with the main organization so that everyone is on board with what the foundation is doing on the Astros side, and everyone on the foundation side understands what the Astros needs are in terms of how they want to build and develop the community?
Right. And, it's lots and lots of communication, right? That we run fast and furious every day. There's not as many people inside the organization as you might think. We're pretty lean and mean. And so we coalesce around what we know is best for our overall business and best for the community, right? And once we get on that page together, we just ensure that we're working together to service both of those, the business and the community. So communicating often and being innovative about our approach to developing long-term win-win agreements for all parties. I mean, we align around those things, and we share leadership. Depending on the situation, the deal, the project. Um, one of us leads and the other one supports. And then the very next thing, we may flip that arrangement. And that's very much a part of our culture. And we do that, again, it all comes from the top. We do that at the insistence of our chairman, Jim Crane. And that's the way we keep the organization moving forward. We're one team.
Well, what's awesome about that is that one side sees the benefit of the other side, and there's teamworks and there's ensembles, and teamwork and ensembles can be the same, but they're also different. What I love about it is it feels like an ensemble in that there's certain times where the foundation's going to drive, and there's certain times where the Astros organization is going to drive, and the other person can be the passenger, and it's just understanding who should really be driving this and who's there to support, and when everyone gets that, that's really where the magic of teamwork and the magic of just an ensemble of people and organizations really just allows something to really thrive. I think that's just so
I'll
cool.
have to remember that metaphor, but you said it so much better than me. But that's exactly right. That's spot on.
we
That's
we
exactly
all we
right.
all have to do that. And hey, the musical performers that come to Daikin Park, there's a little bit of an ensemble there, so it's not like that's a brand new concept to that space.
Right.
So, it does take a village for any organization to be successful. And really, there's a third piece that I really want to talk about, and that is, the Astros Foundation partners with a lot of other nonprofits to develop programs that the Astros may want to support, but may not, because you said you all are lean and mean, may not necessarily have the ability to do on a staff level themselves. So, talk about some of the organizations that the nonprofit organizations that the Astros Foundation partners with to allow it to, further your goals with the thing, some of the, categories that you had mentioned in your mission statement.
Absolutely. So just want to remind you that our pillars are our youth initiatives, military and first responders, childhood cancer, domestic violence, and the unhoused. And so we partner with organizations that kind of work inside of those pillars. And sometimes our support shows up in different ways. We have 600 volunteers who work in this city in different capacities every day. And so sometimes our support in those pillars is that our volunteers are showing up every day, making it happen for those particular nonprofit organizations because they don't have that kind of volunteer capacity. Sometimes we use a celebrity of our players to offer memorabilia and those type things to help with auctions. We're big on auctions in the city of Houston. And so we send tickets and jerseys and bats all over the city. And it is amazing in the live auctions for these nonprofits how much they can raise themselves through us donating something that's relatively easy for us to give. And the number is probably a lot larger than the check that we have written. And then we also make grants to particular organizations to further their mission. So it just depends. We try to be flexible. We want to know how we can support them better. I mean, sometimes the support is knowing that someone from the Astros organization is going to show up at their program or at their event. And because of that, and again, the brand of the Houston Astros, it causes people to purchase a ticket or purchase a table. And so we work in various ways with nonprofits in order to have them raise more money, because we know in the nonprofit world, that's how we impact programs, right? So we help them fuel the programs that we know that are going to be beneficial for people in marginalized communities.
That so well said, and the bunches of different ways that you all do get involved, and your answer was perfect because it really allows us to kind of talk about the gala, and
Right.
and it's interesting because you were talking about at the end of your answer there about getting people, having the Astros involved gets people in the door. So talk a little bit about how the organization and how you all as a foundation kind of identify and nurture maybe some of those Astro season ticket holders to become Diamond Dreams Gala attendees and or foundation donors.
I will tell you that we probably haven't done an excellent job in that space, but but I asked the same question when I arrived 4 months ago, and that's absolutely a part of our strategy. Again, that's a whole nother part of our organization, season ticket holders, right? And traditionally, they've been ensuring that the season ticket holders have a wonderful experience so that they will re-up and be season ticket holders the next year. And so we are now in its infancy, kind of wading into that space. So our season ticket holders also giving to the organization, the nonprofit arm of the organization, yes. But I will tell you that we probably don't have the strongest strategy, and we're working on that right now. So that's my most honest answer
I'm
about that.
glad you gave the honest answers because I think it's important for people to realize because I think people just think that because we're an organization that raises a ton of money, it doesn't mean that you're not lean and mean and there's not things that you can do to work to. And people have asked me, I've gone to over 2,000 events over the years, and people
Mm-hmm.
ask me what's a perfect event you've been to, and I tell them there's never been one. And there never will be one, and there's always room to improve. So I always appreciate honesty and candor for that reason.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, talk a little bit, because this is your first year as, running the foundation. What how will you be able to utilize the Diamond Dreams Gala so that you can connect better with donors, with corporate sponsors, and really help, kind of take the organization where you want it to go and how you utilize the gala for that?
Absolutely. Well, let me just say that this organization has been doing the gala since 2016, starting off with a spectacular performance by James Taylor. And then each year it has just grown and grown. That includes acts, country acts and R&B acts. I mean, like Lyle Lovett, Lionel Richie. I mean, Earth, Wind and Fire, Diana Ross. I mean, those kind of names have been on the list. But one of the things that I pay attention to as a long term chief development officer in a lot of organizations is that I tell people that the event is kind of the beginning of the relationship, right? It's not, because what happens is people work themselves to death to put on the gala. People do exactly what you want them to do, and that's they show up in the room for the gala, and then they don't hear from you again until the next year when you're selling the table at the gala again. So if they cared enough about you to come to the gala, it's our responsibility as staff and committed volunteers to bring them into the lifeblood of the organization, have them understand how we are having an impact in the community, and invite them to be a part of that. Not everyone wants that frontline hands-on experience. They don't want to go over to a wonderful organization like Kids Meals with Us and actually prepare lunches, but a lot of them do. And so just understanding them on a case by case basis, because we know they have the capacity to give. Obviously, they purchase a table, and just understanding what their propensities are and how they want to manifest themselves in the community alongside us. And so it's all about deepening those relationships. So we want to see people at Diamond Dreams Gala, but we want to see them all year long with us.
What I really appreciate about that answer is you realize that donors are just like anybody else. They want to be seen. And you seeing them in different ways. And for some people, yeah, it may be just cutting a check, but other people, it may be they want to cut a check and volunteer. Some people, it
Right.
may just be that they want to volunteer, but they have the resources to bring in, more major donors. And the fact that you understand that from your experience, it's such a critical, important thing because as much as you would love 100% retention for the gala every year, and I think every development person knows this, no one's going to get 100% retention because people get
No.
married, divorced, pass away, whatever it is. So
Right.
understanding that allows for that new energy to come in. I just think that it's so
Right.
cool that you really understand that.
Because if they love us, then they'll tell their friends how much they love us, and their friends will be inclined to come on board. And so that's when it really gets good.
Absolutely. And events are really the ultimate
Yeah,
word of mouth thing to grow. Yes, social media is an important component, but there's something about, especially a gala, when you're in the room, there's just something about that energy that it's not describable unless you're there. That doesn't
absolutely.
necessarily come across in a screen.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, you had talked about, Daikin Park, and what is so cool, and this is what I love about events like this, is your guests get to be at Daikin Park. They get to be on the field at Daikin Park. So, talk a little bit about how you all go about using the space so that those guests have an unforgettable experience and they are telling their friends like you were talking about.
Actually, just realizing that coming into the job was a little bit overwhelming for me because, I'd done a lot of hotel ballroom, different other spaces or whatever, but it's like this huge stadium. Are you kidding me? Just the decor onto itself is a lot, right? How do we make this stadium feel elegant? We wear t-shirts and shorts around here to the game. And so how do we do that? But the secret sauce is people love dancing and dining on a Major League Baseball field. They love it, right? And we love hosting them there in that atmosphere. And so we work hard to make it a really unforgettable experience. I talked earlier about the talent that's going to be there. So there's this beautiful big stage out in the outfield, and then lots of tables and decor. And we have an in house special events team that gets us, allows us to create. Although the name over the years has been Diamond Dreams Gala, each gala has a very unique theme. We're Floridian Nights this year, and so we just really lean into that, and it's all about having a great time.
Absolutely. Now, you said the theme, Floridian Nights, and people are like, wait a minute, that's on the other side of the Gulf. So there's a reason for that, people, and that is that Flo Rida is going to be the headliner this year. So there is a tie there. So, tell us a little bit about, Flo Rida and, what advice you would give to an organization looking to get a high profile person to say yes to either headline a gala, perform a gala, sing at a gala, whatever it may be.
Just like most things in life, it's relationships, because, and it's worth putting the energy in. I mean, there's always a kind of the 3 degrees of separation and talking to people within your fold, because you don't paying market rate, let me just say it that way, for most organizations, including ours, is not doable, right? And so we lean into relationships, and sometimes it takes us a while, right? But we literally chase people all over the globe until they respond to us and see what we can do, because we want to be careful with our charitable dollars. And so we are able to acquire the talent at a rock bottom rate, because we have them understand the great work that we're doing, the impact that we're trying to have, and we ask them to lean in with us, which means that we probably are not paying anywhere near the rate that you would see if you would Google them or get in touch with their agent. And so, for example, I'm the executive director, but I'm not going to make the ask, right? But I have wonderful connected people in our circle, and we find the best person and have them approach those. It's particularly our wonderful board members. Board members are so off. I mean, they come to the board meetings, but we have to understand who we have in the room with us on a regular basis. And sometimes you need that one person who has those strong relationships in the city, in the state, in the country, right, who can help you at a time such as this. And that's what it was for us with Flo Rida. So we cannot be more excited to have him here. And we will push hard in August with the promotion. And we think that this year's event's going to be the best yet.
Oh, it absolutely will be. But there's one thing that I really value you saying. You didn't say we expect Flo Rida to perform for free. And there's a difference between saying, I'm a nonprofit, do it for free versus I'm a nonprofit, what
No,
can you do? And the thing is that their time is valuable, just like your time is valuable. And there are so many nonprofits out there doing such good work that, their time is valuable. And it's a Saturday night or it's a weekend night that they're either not at home with their family or not performing at a concert. And I'm really glad that you brought that up, that there's not that expectation. There's an expectation you're going to have to charge a fee. It may not be what they normally would pay, but you acknowledge that there's it's, they are providing something to really help you raise more money.
right. And you're studying and understanding, can you tie it in with something else that they're doing? So as long as they're in this region, they can do multiple things. And so it makes good business sense for them as well. So
And it
those are the
really,
things we look for.
absolutely. And it's just tying all those things together. And I really appreciate you bringing that part about, they're in Austin or they're in Dallas. They can just pop down. It's not that big of a, it's not that big of a deal. And the other component of high profile people are the players, the Astros players. So talk a little bit about how they historically have been involved with Diamond Dreams and how their attendance and their enthusiasm of wanting to be there helps contribute to the success of Diamond Dreams.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when our guests come to the gala, to the extent that they have a selfie, we are crazed with selfies, right? So to the extent that they were able to gather a selfie, take a selfie with one of the players, it's actually out on social media before they leave the event. But the players are such wonderful. I mean, and then they get to see them in an environment where they're just being wonderful human beings instead of dynamic athletes, right? They have wives, they have children, families, and they're just happy to have a good time as well. And so we are super excited. We honor the fact that for them, they've just had a very long season. I mean, they don't get much time off. We also know that not all players have their permanent residence here, so they may be going back someplace else. And so we just and they enjoy it. And so again, a part of that whole Astros team effort, we encourage them to come, and not all of them will make it, but we just feel sure that many of them will, and they have, along with our coaches and our general manager, for example, Dana Brown, who will be there. And so they are the hook that people like to come and see as much as any entertainer that we would bring in.
Well, absolutely. And that is what's unique. And I've had several sports foundations. I think yours is the first one that doesn't do their gala during their actual competitive season. So I'm glad you brought that piece up. And that's one of the things that makes yours unique is that it's right after the end of the season. So yeah, some of those folks may be dispersed or they're taking that family vacation, now
Right.
that the 8 month season's over. And the fact that you acknowledge and make room for that is really, I think is really, really key.
Right.
And
And let's just say that, our ambition every time is that that's not so far after the season because we intend to go all the way. And so, it's not that far after the World Series games.
That is true. It's just a couple of weeks after that. So good point. I'm glad you brought that up, Emelda. So tell us, this year, as your first one as the executive director, tell us what people can expect at this year's Diamond Dreams Gala and what you're looking forward to.
Oh, absolutely. So the whole Floridian night, I have the whole style book or the look book that we call it. And so I am super excited about um, transforming the inside of Daikin Park to something that resembles a tropical paradise. So I am very excited about that. It will be beautiful decor, great music and dancing, and a cool atmosphere to raise funds for the Astros Foundation efforts to support. And we are focused on our unhoused community for this year's gala. And so we will have some exhibits that talks about that gives people, in case they didn't understand. I mean, it's one thing to see people unhoused on the street, but it's another way to really have them understand what some of the data shows us, and what we can all do together to change the trajectory of what's going on. We're doing a great job here in Houston, but we can do better. And so just having people understand that. And so they'll be kind of in the very front of the room, where people can kind of see that and know that, and then move past that into the party area. And so it makes the party better, right? When we know that we're partying for a purpose. And so that's what we're all about.
Partying for a purpose. And I love that you're tying, you've got a specific one of your core pillars that you're going to focus on and
Right.
providing people with tangible examples or visuals or whatever those things may be, those activations. And you have
Yes.
to go to find out what they are because they can't tell us
That
what they
is
are
it.
here. But to bring those things in, that reminds people why they're going in the first place and why they're
Yeah.
giving and why it's important, comma, and you get to have an experience on a baseball field with a few hundred or maybe 1,000 other people. It's a really cool kind of surreal thing to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And so I know we're coming up on time here, but I want to ask this, and because you've had such a long career and a good career in the fundraising space, I love your take on this question. And that is, what is one piece of advice you would give to an organization looking to plan their first gala?
I would tell them, number one, just to be careful with how many events they agreed to have. So, better to do fewer well than to have many, many events. And sometimes that can get out of control because, maybe a board member or another volunteer had another idea. But if everybody could lean into a couple things, if you're a small organization, or three things, if you're a larger organization, that you're committed to over the longer term, right? Because the first year won't be everything it can be. So you're gonna have to stay with it, right? And because and just be patient with the process of developing what will be your legacy event. Diamond Dreams Gala for us now is our legacy event. And I would also say to involve the right volunteers who have a track record of success with fundraising events in Houston. And there are a lot of names on that list that you can bring into the fold. It doesn't have to be a board member or someone who is already a part of your organization. Recruit them into your organization because you know that they have experience and a track record that when they raise their hand and they say, I am going to chair, or to be honored that they're going to put their whole selves into it. And just make it fun because people will remember kind of how you made them feel, and then we'll return for more of that positive energy the following year. So, have that serious moment where they understand the purpose of your organization, the mission of your organization, and then just have fun.
Have fun, and that's what we're all about on this program. But that answer was amazing from start to finish, especially the part where in your first year, as we said earlier, there's no such thing as a perfect event.
Uh-huh.
Knowing that the first year it's a test. And I'm really glad you brought that out because some things will work and other things will change. And over time, you find your signature event, much like Diamond Dreams has been for the Astros Foundation. And Emelda, this was just such a fun conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today. I had a blast talking with you.
Thank you so much. It's been such an honor to be here, and I'm happy to come back just anytime. And so now you've got to come to our Diamond Dreams Gala,
I will
right?
get it on the calendar. It sounds like it would be a lot of fun. And my Houston editor, Jen Roos, has said amazing things about your gala and has gone to it many times over the years. So I'm going to do everything I can to be there.
All right, it's a date.
It's a date. And the 10th annual Diamond Dreams Gala, benefiting the Houston Astros Foundation, will be held on November 15th, 2025 at Daikin Park in Houston, Texas. For more information, please visit mlb.com/Astros. And that will do it for this episode of Fun and Fundraising. I'm your host, Rob Giardinelli, reminding you to keep it fun, keep it interesting, and your guests will have a great time. Have a great day, everyone, and take care.